Hi, my name is Vikram Gupta, and welcome to PreSales Collective's Journey to Presales. We will be listening to fascinating stories of SCs that made their journey into solutions engineering as a career. Our goal is to inspire you, because if they can do it, so can you.
Hello, PreSales Collective. My name is Sam Belcastro, and I'm here with Terry Olaes, a sales engineering leader at Skybox, covering North American sales engineers. And today we're going to talk about Terry's journey into sales engineering and hopefully inspire all of you to see that this is something that you can do, get a little bit of insight from Terry, and help you plan your journey into sales engineering. So, hi Terry, how are you doing today?
Hey, good afternoon. I'm good, thank you.
What is something fun that you love to do that you couldn't do in 2020?
Probably go to athletic events for my kids. They like to run track and they like to do other sports. And in 2020, obviously, all of that was postponed. So running around the house isn't quite the same as running a 400-meter dash, right? So it's nice to see them back outside and competing against others, instead of just running up and down my stairs.
Absolutely. That's been something for me too. As I'm out walking, I could see the pandemic transition as I see more and more kids out on the playgrounds. First, the playgrounds opened, then kids were getting out there and running around. And finally, I started seeing sports fields being populated. So it's been really refreshing to see, especially out here in Seattle with the change in weather as well. So many people stumble into this career. Can you tell us your story?
Like you said, I stumbled into this career as well. I've been in the enterprise side for most of my IT career, working with different retail IT companies. I worked at MCI for a little while, worked at Gap Incorporated, IBM, Neiman Marcus. I was working for so large IT shops, but it's still, I was on the buy side, right? And so, and I never thought of myself as a salesperson or anything. I was just doing my job, compliance, network engineer, as a NOC manager for a while, just lots of different hats in IT, just putting out fires. We were there during the bubble pop, right, of the .com pop in the 2000s and the Y2K, kind of grew up through that time in IT. So, it was kind of pretty Wild West back then about everything, and went through several disasters. I was, we're on staff when 9/11 happened, and that was, pretty crazy about all the stuff. Obviously, aside from the tragedy, but the IT stuff all around that, the circuitry, the circuits, everything that got knocked out along with those buildings going down, because there was a subway station below that had circuits running through it. These big fiber cuts that happened and that knocked out the island for so long. And, being part of the team to help recover that, I helped, with Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans and helping with our store recovery there. So, getting to get through different crises and everything kind of helps me get a perspective that when I was over at in 2015, I was at Neiman Marcus and just working on compliance stuff, and decided I probably wanted to make a change. And I was just kind of looking at more enterprise jobs, right? I don't even think about sales at all. And a friend of mine who was also a salesperson that was calling on us all the time, she told me that I should try to be a sales engineer. She thought I'd be pretty good at it because I'm very calm and I explain myself very well, and I don't lose my patience with people and bring them along and things like that. And so I was like, and for the longest time I fought against her for like 6 months. I was like, no way, I'm not going to be in sales. That's crazy. And she just kept working on me, and then finally got me to go interview with somebody, and then realized that I can probably do this job. And when I first started to shadow sales calls, I took over almost right away, just because of my own experience. There's an experience factor to it that made it a little bit easier for me. But because I was on the buy side for so long, I'm able to impart like a gravitas to what I'm talking about, because I've been there, man. Right? I know exactly what you're going through. The product I'm talking to you about, I used to use when I was at the retailer, and I used it to, beat up on my service provider. I know exactly the problems you're talking about right now. And right away, they're like, oh my gosh, he's kindred spirit. And so we would talk shop, and then, oh, I forgot, I'm selling you something. We'll go back to selling you something, right? And so that's kind of like, so literally I fell into it and really took to it. And so I still think of it as kind of enterprise, right? Who am I helping today? Who do I need to go work with today to bring them along? I don't really look at it as, what's my quota like? What's our achievement looking like this quarter, things like that. So yeah, that's kind of like I said, I literally fell into it, got pulled into it with, kicking and fighting, and then have just really taken to it.
That's a cool story. That's something I hear a lot, is moving from the buying side to the selling side. You really do understand all the different obstacles you might face, or it especially helps with building that trusted advisor status with the customer. Just the relation alone, knowing that you've been in their shoes, is a huge trust building component.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you were transitioning into the sales engineering role, you mentioned that there was kind of a period of, hey, you should try this out. I guess, how hesitant were you along that process when someone started trying to get you into the role to when you finally accepted the role?
Yeah, I was really hesitant. I'm a, security network person by heart, compliance. So I'm pretty risk averse, right? We're trying to kill risk all the time. And to me at the time, sales, I just pictured nothing but risk, right? And especially I don't have much experience at it. I have no idea what the compensation packages are like in it or anything. So I'm going to go into it completely blind. We didn't have some great, material that's out there now, like what SEs make, pre-sales, a survey that came out a little while ago. It was, showing, pre-sales salary levels and things like that. It was awesome. But, back then it was just like Google sales engineer, right? Okay, let's see what it looks like. What do they do? I said, I do that all the time, right? Just looking at I'm constantly selling and internally, getting people to try to understand my point of view. At the time, I was in charge of PCI compliance at that retailer. And when you're in a retail environment, IT is already a cost center. So you're already fighting for your existence, period. They'd rather buy handbags and shoes than spend it on IT. Unless you're e-com, right? If you're a website, that's different because you're making money. But everything else, no way. Especially security, right? Because this was still before Target, before all the big breaches, right? The only big breach at the time was TJ Maxx. And that was already dim history to them by that point, right? It's 2006, 2007. And so it was just kind of for me, it was like an SE probably would graph out the pros and the cons, right? What do I like about being an enterprise? What do I like about reading about SEs, or what I talk to other SEs, that people that my friend got me in contact with to try to talk me to come over, and just kind of weigh it. And honestly, it was just, it helped that my work environment wasn't all that great at the time. And so I was encouraged to probably want to make a change anyway. So I was a little bit more open to making a risk like that, versus if I was happy there. I probably wouldn't have changed if I was happy. And then, of course, talking to my family, my wife was a really big component of it to just kind of get me to believe in myself, because I just really did not think I can't do sales. There's no way, right? And just her just talking to me and getting me to feel a bit more confident about it, I think was a really big deal too. So, finding people that I can talk to that I trust, and they just, slowly worked on me, like I said, around 6 months or so, before I was able, before I finally, took that plunge. And boy, I still totally remember when I decided to do it, just how nervous and shaky I was.
I'm glad you're sharing that, because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there feeling that too. And they're like, it's with everything, moving any career shift.
When you've been in IT, enterprise IT for so long, and then you're shifting to something that's completely unknown, it was, just like, wow, man, I didn't think my experience in IT would play well to sales. I thought I'd be kind of had to be a shyster. I don't know. I worked with other SEs, when they would sell to me and just kind of like, yeah, how's it going? And kind of doing the finger thing like we joke around about. And then realized later on, especially when some of the people that used to sell to me became peers, or we would be in the same show or everything. Oh, you're on this side now. Welcome. And, realized that we're just a bunch of engineers, man. It didn't matter if we're selling or we're keeping systems running. We struggle with keeping systems running, or, keeping people happy, keeping the boss off our back. It's all the same kind of discussions that we're having. It's just different company sizes. So yeah, that was definitely helpful for me to really see the kind of the human side of it when you took out the sales versus IT It's just, engineers are just engineers. We're all in the same boat.
Awesome. Well, that's a great segue into my what I wanted to be my next question. But first, I want to ask, what did you major in college?
Business administration. I thought I wanted to be generic business degree. I figured I'd find a specialization after that. I didn't even think I wanted to be in IT. For the longest time, the only reason I got into computers was because of games. Right back then, we're all about keeping our computers running for games. And so I became really good at keeping my computer running for games and helping other people keeping their stuff running. And, that was in the 90s, right? And so gaming on the PC was a pain in the butt, to get it to do it right. And so, it's definitely, that got me more interested in IT. And then, so even though I had the business, went to school for business, I was just like, IT was kind of the bent I really took to, but no thought of security, no thought of networking. Those two things, they just kind of put me in. They said, you talk to people well, go over here. Right. Okay, sure.
So you majored in business administration, and then sounds like you had a passion for technology through another passion of gaming, which is what led you to your career in IT. That's really cool. Which then led you to your career in pre-sales and sales engineering. So the question I wanted to ask next that I'll ask now was, when you made the transition from from IT to sales engineering, how did you start to balance out that risk adverse mindset where everything you were doing was avoiding risk to, now I have to be this trusted advisor, but I also need to sell to the customer. My performance is also based on quota to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think the easiest way for me to do it was because my natural bent is to help people. I like to, be very helpful and things like that. And so I just shifted my mindset to, instead of me doing it for my organization, I'm trying to help you make your organization better. And so my mindset is, I'm selling you a product, but I'm also selling you a way to think about it. When you have this kind of visibility, you can enable different things, because you can see it differently now. Before you're just looking at the noise in front of you, but after I give you my product, that noise turns into data or something actionable. And then you spend less cycles on that noise and you can work on other stuff. So that's kind of how I would always spin it. I thought about it like when I was at Neiman Marcus during the data breach there in 2013. And so I was the primary point of contact through that data breach and worked with FBI and Secret Service and all kinds of crazy stuff. That's a whole other story by itself. It's crazy. But during that breach, because Target was right before it. And then so we're living in Target's shadow, and we're just, come on, Target, keep on making mistakes so we can keep focusing on you and not us. Right. But during that time, I learned a lot because, while I was in Neiman Marcus, it was still the sales push was heavy, right? Ambulance chasers and security is big problem here. And so I'm sure Colonial Pipeline got hammered right after their news came out. Everyone said, I could have helped you stop the breach. And right away that taught me what not to do is, I said, we're not ambulance chasers. We're not coming in, to guide my salespeople. And, so it's kind of just a thought process of, when I went through the breach, how do I want people to talk to me? I don't want you coming in selling me something. How can you help me get out from under this burden? Right. This is in the meantime, we still have to do PCI. And so we had all these other things going on, on top of that, while I'm, dealing with the Secret Service and explaining to them how, credit processing works. And, so yeah, that's kind of like my mindset to it. It's like, I want to help you. I try to leverage all my experience that I can to help you understand, even if it's a industry that I have no experience in, hospitality, or something like that, where or high finance, where, the most I know about is I know your Chase. That's about it, right? JP Morgan and everything else, I don't know. But all the systems, again, it's the simplification of stuff. They're still networks, right? They're networks. They're complex. There's many of them. They all tie to each other. But at the end of the day, they're still networks. They're still security products. They're still, you can continue to simplify it. And then you do the same thing when you're, when I'd be talking to the customer. So that's kind of how, that risk aversity would work, is that I would just transfer it into, I want to get you out from under that, that risk or that nervousness customer that you came to me about. And so here's how I can help you be less nervous about that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. I know that I can see a struggle of being too risk adverse can get you into maybe being too technical at some points. So I think that's a good skill to practice as you transition, is how do I balance the sales plus the risk side. I want to take a little direction here, or a little direction shift here, and talk about learning and how you stay up to date on technology and the different sales practices. So it's a two-part question. The first part is, when you were transitioning into the role, how did you ramp up, learn what a sales engineer was, what they do, what your responsibilities were? And then now, as you're in the role and a veteran in the role at this point, how do you continue to learn and keep yourself up to date?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing for me was leaning on others. Take every advantage of anyone that says, "Let me know if I can help you." Boom! I'm letting you know you can help me. Shoot the emails, have calls, let's have coffee, whatever it takes for me to sponge off you. Please, give me all the information that you have. And so it really was just take advantage of every opportunity to partner with somebody. And it's just, for me, it was, suppress any ego I have. Sales engineers, and, we tend to carry around egos, right? And so, suppress the ego and know that we can learn from these guys. Even if they've only been a sales engineer for a short while, everyone does things differently. And so, learning a little bit, the tips, tricks of the trade, things like that. So like early on, it was really just, glomping onto the senior SEs at the company at the time and just, following them around like a dog and just, and keep asking questions. Why did you do it like that? Why don't you do it like this? Oh, I never thought about it like that. And just, we would talk back and forth about every single opportunity and every single demo and just pick it apart. And, obviously just before the advent of any kind of those call recording, software like Gong and those guys. And so, this was just literally me sitting over their shoulder or, RDP'd in or called into the same call while we're going through it. But, it was just a lot of that, asking lots of questions and just following people around. And as my career progressed, I would just shift who I'm talking to, right? Once I figured out, okay, I can't learn, or there's not much I can learn from this side now, or I have different responsibility now. So I need to go talk to other people instead. And so that's kind of what I did. And I would also supplement it by talking to other groups, product management, R&D, support, because those guys all look at it differently as well. They have, sometimes they're right in front of the customer, TAMs and resident engineer types. So talking to them, how do you avoid this pitfall, that's in our product? And they'll tell me about it. And, it's like, oh, that's a great way. I can work that into my demo. And, in the same way, they can learn to me, how do you keep customers from getting mad at you all the time, And so there's just, we can all learn from each other. I learned how to bring in other teams and learn from them. And I realized that they appreciate that. At first I was afraid that I was bothering them, but I quickly learned that no, it's not a bother at all, as long as you're learning from it. You're not asking the same question over and over again. That's when they realize, okay, you're paying attention, you're taking notes, you're following up. So, and then flash forward to today, I still continue to follow that process. I'm following, kind of talking to VPs and such now. Looking at it from the director side role, leadership, right? Is because I'm pretty new to sales leadership. Is how do you manage SEs? When I came up from that team, these guys were all my peers for all these years, and now I'm their manager. And so working with them, and we still joke around about it, and I get really good advice from some of the managers saying, okay, I did the same thing. You can be buddy, but you have to draw a line. There's always that kind of stuff. And honestly, the PSC, helped with the with the forum and the chats in there, because I can kind of learn off of people's questions, right? I just Google leadership, right? Or go to the leadership channel and look up all the questions that are in there and just keep scrolling back, keep scrolling back, because there's great responses that are going back and forth in there. I grab book recommendations from there, just so I just kind of glean stuff off of the other people's questions in the chat. And so, so that's kind of how I stay up now, like at least on the leadership training. And then technology wise, there's so much great free stuff out there now. And so, LinkedIn Learning, YouTube, just so much content out there that we can use, as long as we're good at searching for it, right? There's quite a bit of it out there. And so you need to make sure you're looking for the right version of titration if you're looking up data. But, so I supplement it with a lot of that, watching the videos and just, and then also, like the feeds like Twitter and such. Having curated feeds. Trying to stay out of the line of fire for the normal mainstream stuff and just look for InfoSec. InfoSec has its own line of fire, with all the pen testing and all the drama there. But at least, I can find a little bit more targeted stuff that I'm, interested in versus, politics. Right. So yeah, that's kind of how I kind of stay fresh now, is just, find the, just stay on top of the different social channels and jump in and dig into something that's interesting.
I'm really happy you touched on the learning from the other parts of the company. I mean, as a sales engineer, you're right in the middle of everything. And I think it's really important to, if you're looking to transition into a sales engineering role, to understand how important partnering with those different orgs is, and understanding the product side, understanding your account executive side. On the learning front, with you mentioned the PreSales Collective content. I was actually just in there the other day. I'm like, what's something new I can learn? And went to the blog, and there's a million articles there alone. So I think PreSales Collective and other thought leaders out there are creating a lot of content for sales engineers to now go and learn in those targeted threads.
Yeah, it feels like almost like a renaissance a little bit on pre-sales, because when I joined 5 years ago, there wasn't any of this content out there. There's a couple blogs, like from the guy that used to lead pre-sales over at Zscaler. He had a blog, Bill Lapp, and so that was one of the few sources I found that would talk about SC, performance and leadership and things like that. It's a lot more prevalent now, which I appreciate.
Absolutely. When I was in school, I actually recently graduated a couple years ago, I think 2018, and when I joined the school, this random group, I was looking to join a club, and it was a sales engineering club. I was like, I've never heard of this before, but they said engineering and social skills. I said, it's better than joining a tech club while I'm already in all these tech classes. and that's kind of how I got here. But it is exploding. Like, even when I joined that club, that was the only source of information I had. And now there's this whole plethora of stuff. So I'm going to go on to one last segment here, which is going to be rapid fire questions. They're going to be, whatever pace you have them, but try to answer them a little quicker. The first that I want to hit is describe yourself in 3 words.
Curious, helpful, and caring, I guess.
What is the first thing you do when you get up in the morning?
I make the bed. So if my wife's not in it, I'll make the bed.
Good advice there. But yeah, awesome. I love that. Let's see. Where do you want to go in 2 years? Where do you want your career to take you?
I don't know. Right now, this was always my goal, was for directorship, and so it's I'm evaluating that now. What is next from here? But yeah, it's just, I like the leadership role, though. So it'd be some sort of leadership coaching role. I really enjoy that, mentorship, and try to find something that stays in that.
Do you see yourself staying in sales engineering, or are you interested in learning new things?
I think I see myself staying in sales engineering, because it's so broad of a spectrum. If I want to learn application, I just move over to that, that vertical, right? And I've always been in infrastructure, so if I want to change, it's pretty easy to jump over, especially at a leadership level. It's just all about experience at that point. So yeah, as long as it's, right now, sales engineering is perfectly fine for me.
What do you wish you knew before you became a pre-sales engineer?
That not all RSDs, not all sales reps are alike. And my experience with the rep at the time was great, because she was my friend and things like that. And so I expected all of them to be like that. Whoa, no. There are ones that are very driven, with their number, and just different types of personalities. And so if I would have known that, I might have done a little bit more research on that. Like on the sales side, like what are salespeople like? Because I didn't really do any research on that. It was just all about the engineering side.
I'm sure you've probably heard of Chris White in his book. If not, he wrote a book called 6 Habits of Highly Effective Sales Engineers. I think that's his first habit: partner. And he's actually the first to introduce me to the more in-depth dynamic of sales engineering, AE, and how to manage those relationships.
Yeah, it's so huge. I mean, it cannot be understated that it will determine your quality of life is that level of partnership that you have with people.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Terry. I think we're at time here. I really appreciate you answering the questions today. Any last thoughts you want to give before I...
No, don't be afraid to ask questions. There's so many resources available to, budding sales engineers now where people are looking at this job. Don't be discouraged by what people, say you don't have any experience, you can't do the job. No, talk to people. There's a lot of people have fallen into this role without having the level of experience that you'd expect, especially even if in the job description, and find out that you actually can do this job perfectly fine. It's technology is just a piece of it. The human aspect of it is really huge for sales engineers.
Well, thank you again so much, and can't wait to see this go live.
Thanks a lot, Sam. Appreciate it.